This is what happens when you do your own tech. But we're live in a second anyway. All right. Hope everyone can hear me again. All right, welcome to another stream, but this time a bit different. We're doing our first content collaboration stream just because I really love all our content creators and they are so much more experienced when it comes to Star Trek Online than I am. So I think we should let them show me the ropes a little and show you guys what you can do with the new ships we've just released last week. So for the first time today, I have Mara and Endeavor Gaming on. And how about they introduce themselves to you? Mara, if you would start, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Mara. I've been playing in the game since launch and active in the community since 2016. I've been making content since on and off since 2018. I make ships for all budget points and I do big deeps.
All right. How about you, Endeavor? How did you come to be here today?
Hello, everyone. My name is Endeavor. I have been a STO player for quite a long time, and just recently, in the last few years, started content creating. I focus on doing demo record videos showing off all of the absolutely amazing looking starships we have here in Star Trek Online.
And just posted an amazing trailer that we're going to share on the official account soon. But you should follow them both. We're gonna share their accounts again after the stream on our official accounts and on Discord. You should, as always, join us on Discord as soon as possible. And before we really get into the stream, just gonna say there's gonna be another giveaway. So you can win a T6 ship coupon for ships in the Zen store. And just to say, if you take part in this, you have to be an active chatter throughout the stream, so just keep talking to each other and to us. And also, please have your messages open on Twitch, because if I cannot message you to find out your username, then I cannot send you anything. The first coupons went out today, and the next ones will go out as soon as you guys win them. So just stay around. I'll tell you guys when, but usually you should just stick around to the end of the stream and get your chance at a ship coupon. Maybe show off the ships afterwards in our Discord. I'd really like that. All right. What you can expect out of today is we just released beautiful ships, at least in my opinion. One is the Trafalgar and one is the WoF Stronghold. They have much longer names, but I think that's the one that you guys usually call them and I usually call them before I break my tongue over them. And the way we're gonna do it is we're gonna have both our wonderful creators show you guys a build each on each ship. As you can already see on stream, we're gonna start with the WoF, which I think it looks amazing in this map and in these colors. And that means that we're gonna start with Mara.
First off, chat is reporting that I'm quite loud. Is this any better, chat?
Well,
Okay. Yep. Okay. So let's get going. This is what I call a 90-day build. A 90-day build has some basic rules. Um, the idea is that you get to level 65 and it would take you, if you're doing serious free-to-play work, 90 days to get it. So no more than 720,000 dilithium, no more than 180 million EC, which comes out to be about 2 million EC a day. It's all rep stuff. It's all fleet. It's all mission stuff that's obtainable. Nothing more than 15 million EC on an individual item, so you're below the wallet cap. The idea here is performance for the people who don't or can't be dumping money into the game right away. No uncon, no high meta. This is fundamentals brought to their highest point of development. So let's take a look at how this works. I did sort of violate my normal 90-day rules a little bit to demonstrate some concepts with event gear, because normally when I develop a free-to-play build, I exclude event gear entirely because I don't know who has it. But the two things I included from events are the Elios console from last winter and Ouroboros driver, the trait from the summer hollow ship. So let's talk about these decisions. So Ouroboros driver is a starship trait that when you cast a tactical or intel bridge officer ability, it recharges engineering or miracle worker and vice versa. Now, a lot of people will talk about the value of T6 starship traits. T6 starship traits are usually where we find a lot of our damage boosting. But for free-to-play players, you don't have access to all of these high output traits. So the relative value of a cooldown trait in the slot when you can't afford something like Boimler, or you want to use your DOF slots for affordable crit DOFs instead of something like an auxiliary to battery setup, this actually makes a ton of sense. So we're going to take a look at how this works. So let's look at the bridge. Fundamental setup here. If you look at my skill bar here, you'll notice that I have the long-term engineering skills going off first, then a set of tactical skills, which will hit that with cooldown, and then a rapidly recycling engineering skill like auxiliary to structural integrity field, which goes off about every 10 seconds, depending on cooldown variants, cooling down all those tactical abilities, and then another tactical ability hitting that in sequence. So this thing is constantly cooling itself down across the entire sequence. You have almost a complete solution. You just lose cooldown on your science abilities, which for this are just triggering things. You don't really need them. So this has a really tight cooldown cycle, and you don't have anything crazy. You just have one event ship trait taking up a slot that wouldn't otherwise be stacked with something like Confed Führer or predictive algorithms that aren't doing too much for you. So you've got a cooldown sequence handling all of your abilities really, really tightly and quickly. So yeah, that's the core idea of this build. Cooldowns that make sense in a place that normally would be considered a bad place to be, because it makes sense for free to play. Do we have any questions, or can I move on to a next part?
No questions yet. I am very fascinated though. Making notes.
All right. So let's go. Second major concept. This uses Breen Polaron. Breen Polaron is super duper good against elite content. And here's why. Let's take a look at the proc here. It has a 2.5% chance cold damage equal to 1% of max hull of the target. Now, normally we don't look at procs because without a ton of haste, they happen between 25 and 30 seconds apart. This is different, however. Breen Polaron is per shot and not per cycle. On top of that, we've got a little haste in this build from the Elios console, custom power matrix, so that makes them go off even more often in practice. And against really big targets that aren't excluded from it, like some bosses are excluded from the proc. Against really big targets, that 1% damage stacks up really fast. So when you look at a parse, this proc can contribute an extra 10% to your gun damage. These things cost less than 2 million per gun. These things cost less than 2 million per gun. Now, talking about it means that they're probably going to go up in price, but they're still very, very good for very, very cheap. Polaron mags cost next to nothing. They're dirt cheap.
For now.
So you've got that. Yeah, well, even still, pole mags are still really cheap and will probably stay so. But because there's so much supply. The only expensive part of this gun-wise are the turrets. They're like 8 million a piece, but you don't really like need them. You can get them. But yeah, this does a lot for a little. Like the whole build costs less than like 80 million EC.
It does look like I could
So
finally get those elite fights with them.
yeah, I mean I've clocked this thing between 400 and 600 DPS, 600,000 DPS in ISE. Now, I have a ton of endeavors. You could say I'm pretty experienced. So knock like 100, 150 off of that. And the average like experienced player who's got some time in playing and knows how to fly.
That felt
They
targeted. I'm such a bad flyer.
What happened? No, I'm sorry. No, I just mean someone who
Same.
understands how map tempo goes. Can get hundreds of thousands of DPS out of this for like nothing. Like this is a really solid setup. There's some other tricks in here. Like the idea here is getting all your bases covered. Like you've got reiterative structural capacitor, which is from the Phoenix store, which covers your spike, a big spike heal. Spike healing is super important because what usually kills you is when the whole room looks at you and just says no really quick and then moves on to someone else. You usually just can't support surviving through that big hit. Then you've got shield absorptive frequency generator, which you can get off of a dilithium ship, which gives you shield healing from your damage output. So the better you are, the tougher you are. I've also got a trait here, concealed repairs. This costs a few million EC on the exchange. It triggers off of jam sensors, and it gives you a 33% total hull heal over 10 seconds, which lets you survive through a 10-second period of intense fire. It's also got reverse shield polarity, which is kind of an underrated ability. And it's extended by a duty officer. I believe we have a blacked out screen.
Yes. Give me 1 second. Right. See, this is what happens when I do my own tech. Wait.
I will pause. To answer some questions people have been bringing up, people commented on the fact that everything's epic. Getting something from Mark 15 very rare to Mark 15 epic is only going to add a few percentage points of damage on here. I'm using epic guns because I had them. I wasn't going to upgrade a whole set of these to Mark 15 very rare out of the box because I didn't want to spend the resources. But the difference between using Mark 15 very rare and Mark 15 epic is really not that big of a deal. It's a final tune. It's something you can do later in your progression. But it's just an extra mod. Yeah, it's an extra mod that gives you a few percentage points. It's not gonna suddenly make this build so much more powerful.
So it's worth investing in even if you're not a pure beginner anymore.
Getting to epic is something that you do late. It is a fine tune. You want to get the core of your build set up first. Worrying about rarity is something you do much later in your build.
And if I don't have even the budget you've already said, which is very low, what would you say you should prioritize getting first for this build?
I would always I'd focus on getting your guns to 15 first. There's a huge amount of damage boosting in your guns getting to 15. The gap between Mark 12 and Mark 1 is the same gap between Mark 12 and Mark 15. They're essentially the same. They're like slightly different by a few percentage, but they are essentially the same damage output gap. So getting your guns to Mark 15 is a huge boost. Getting your damage boosting consoles to Mark 15, again, not worrying about a rarity, next big step. There are stages to this kind of build. Like if you don't have the reputations up yet to get the core reputation deflector engine and core and shield set, something we call the Dex set, or some people call it the drivetrain, you can be using, I like to recommend the Braden Recon engines from Of Signs and Portents. I like to recommend the Crystal Matrix Shield from Parapassum. I like to recommend a crafted deuterium warp core or it could just drop. You can get it on the exchange. You can craft it yourself. And then the colony deflector, you can just get that. Like most people just have access to that really easily. So yeah, like this stuff is all like this is rep. This is rep. This is rep. This you can get on the exchange for like 6 million EC. Again, the plan here, the idea here is it is considered something that you can achieve in 90 days. I'm not expecting someone to go do this immediately. This is something that you can do in 90 days of like a couple hours a day play. You're like like you're a regular player. You're playing the game. This is your game. So yeah, and just to show off the rest of the components, duty officers. So we've got crit chance and crit severity doffs. These are like 8 million a pop. Emergency con hologram, which is crucial to field mobility, is a Phoenix token thing. Dalrel is often under 15 million. When infinity boxes are out of circulation, it spikes, but if you wait, it comes down in price, and this is a really nice heal. And then a rare fabrication engineer is also only a few million EC usually. These things, again, this whole build is eminently achievable. You can make like 500,000 to 1 million a day just doing Tour of the Galaxy. You can spin your Admiralty, do some farming. You can make 2 million a day like relatively quickly, as long as you're like actually know the paths and do the things. Like it's all doable.
So as long as you play the content and keep leveling up, you will be able to get this.
Yep. Play the game. This is achievable.
Yeah, I do recommend everyone play the game. Especially now we have new content coming up, so everyone who hasn't gotten through the recent content yet, Axiom is still, I think, one of the prettiest episodes we've done, but I'm very biased because I'm a pastel girly. So you guys know this is something you can budget towards while getting through all the content in preparation for our new content drop.
Yep. So I've explained the basic concepts here. Who wants to see it fly?
I do.
I do.
Right.
Shall we?
Endeavor.
Actually, I do actually want temporal secondary.
Do you have any comments, Endeavor, while we watch it fly?
No, I mean, Mara's build is really nice. I can't wait to see this thing in action.
Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. The pets that come with this were updated with the release. Voth Heavy Fighters now have Focused Assault on them. Now, there are no Type 7s, which provide tremendous debuff, but the damage bonus they provide is team supporting. So they're actually worth using. Like, you can't... they're not Type 7s. If you have Type 7s, they're better. But if you're starting out, go grab some elite Voth Heavy Fighters. They will help the team. They don't do a ton of damage on their own, but that Focused Assault does help. All right, so I'm going to queue an ISE public. Whoever shows up, don't make too much of a mess, please. Here we go.
We're putting a target on ourselves.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go.
I just love this part of the map. It's very pretty. I'm very distracted by it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one more thing I should mention. If you aren't aware of it, you should invest in, when you have a relatively constant income trickle, Prototype or Blade of Jevanite hard points that give you 15 minutes of plus 100 Starship hull capacity. This can matter. It gives you upwards of 20 to 30k extra HP. Super worth using.
Especially if you're like me and like to fly through the warp core breaches rather than around them.
All right, here we go.
I
Now,
just doxed
now
my
watch my luck. A
country.
bunch of high DPS. Oh no.
Apparently players heard the ambulance coming. This is for all the NPCs we're about to shoot with that build. Look, I love this art. I have it as my background on my work PC.
Hey, there you are, Law. All right, 27, 26. Starting my sequence.
Ooh. I'm ready to see some space fight. Oh, I'm not here. I'm not in game with my ship because you guys will never see me fly if I can help it because I run into things all the time. Okay, that is a very impressive laser show, I have to say.
Yep, here we go. I'm just going to focus down a bit.
It's amazing to see in action. I'm really impressed.
Just going to stay and make sure everything dies.
I see Jeremy is in chat, so he's watching you guys.
I overspent my evasive early. I'm very used to that assimilator dying quickly.
Yep. Still think you're doing pretty well.
Oh yeah, this is doing fine. I need to leave early so that the gate doesn't like do something.
Yep, I'll take care of the assimilator.
Thank you.
Nice. Always good to bring back up.
All right, we couldn't kill the gate fast enough. Oh well.
So this would get someone pretty far in the game if they're trying to level up and get more endeavors, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Is there a point where you would say it's not effective anymore, or do you think this could go late game to the more difficult challenges and fights with other players?
I mean, this is already clocking at nearly carry level DPS. Yeah, 408. Not bad for a kind of scruppy run. All right. I'm gonna pull up the parts real quick.
Whee!
let's see here. So y'all can see. Now, I took in the majority of the attacks in. I was the tank. I saw someone commenting about the tank doing its job. I was the tank. So let's take a look at the breakdown here. Polaron turrets, and here's Polaron Frostbite. It did a little less than 10% of gun damage. So that was not the best performance for it. I've seen much better, but that's a relevant value for a proc. That's really nice. Like, this is really solid. So yeah, and then let's see, Dark Matter, Lace Torpedo, and Chemosite together. That has an interaction where Dark Matter's dot proc chemo, so that provides a lot of DPS right there, an additional debuff. So this is just a really tight build. And as Phil Decide said, and as I mentioned much earlier in the stream, I have really high endeavors. So knock off like 100 to 150,000. I've gotten this build up to 600k in a really good run. So this for like people with no endeavors, this same setup could do like 300k.
I mean, that's still a massive improvement for me. And
Yeah.
I think for most
This
new
is-
players.
Yeah, and again, as I demonstrate, this is all there's no Zen in this build. There is 0 Zen in this build. There is no wallet cap increase in this build. There is no premium anything. This is everything that a player could reasonably expect to obtain in 90 days if they were committed to playing this game. Like this is imminently obtainable. So that's my stronghold.
Nice. All right. So if you guys have any last questions for this build, you have a moment while I switch to Endeavor's stream. And then he can show his build to you guys. Alright. Should be fine. Ah yeah, we got some praise and comments from Jeremy here. And we don't have the builds posted yet. We're showing them off for the first time. But we are gonna get them on the official accounts in some way after this.
To answer the question, I am posting both of these builds to our STO builds as soon as the stream ends. There are full write-ups.
Yes, and we'll make sure to share them on our accounts so you guys can read up on anything you might have missed or use it as a guide for your next project. All right. Are you ready, Endeavor?
Sure am.
Nice. Let's go, guys. Build number 2.
So, those of you that know me know that I hold one firing mode near and dear to my heart. So, of course, I had to do at least one beam overload build to get this ship rolling. I wanted to do what I'm calling a year 1 build. This ship starts with the Ilios and basically works its way through the rewards that you could get through the event campaign and builds out a ship that you could take through STO on your adventures in beam overloading. So starting out, I'm just gonna go through all of the ship equipment I've got here. I have the Discovery Torp from the Reputation, and then 4 crafted anti-proton dual beam banks. I actually didn't have a full set of these until I started working on this build for the stream. The only other set of anti-protons I had were the Bauls for the Garrett, so I had a lot of fun going in and trying to decide what kind of beams I wanted. I ended up going for a set of beams that were rolled for pen. And for those of you that don't know, when you have this modifier, it will give each one of these weapons a +10 to armor penetration, which is really nice. Going down for the drag train of my ship for the deflector, very similar to Mar, I'm running the Elite Fleet Intervention Protomatter Deflector Array. I have the competitive engines. I've been running these for years. Now that I've gotten used to them, they've just been a ton of fun. I love zooming around the map whenever I activate a firing mode, and every time I use engines that aren't these, I feel like I'm going so slow. For the warp core, I went with the disco one so that I could have that two-piece set with the shield. In the back, I start to get into my first event campaign sorts of things. One of the rewards that you get from completing the event campaign, which I will pull up here, even though I have not quite completed mine yet, is this box with 1,500 Lobi. So when I was going through and planning out the build, the first thing I knew I was going to have, of course, was the Lobi from the surprise. I knew I'd have to use some of it to get the Atoleth for the trait. But then I started thinking about what else I could do with the leftover Lobi. And the Bowel Anti-Proton is one that I really like. Plus, it was great to have an Omni that matched the damage type of everything else I was running. For the second Omni, for my non-set one, I just went with a crafted anti-proton beam. Once you get the R&D school to level 15, you can craft these really easily. You can also buy them from the exchange. And then rounding out my rear weapons, I have the kinetic cutting beam. This is one that I like to throw on sometimes. It's still a pretty fun weapon. For my device slots, I ended up having to make a change last night to these because I realized I had some things on that I wasn't sure if I wanted to use or not. I had the energy amplifiers on here, but I decided to take those off just to sort of lean into this. It's in the first year maybe that you're playing STO, you're doing your first event campaign, you haven't quite gotten to everything yet. You haven't built up a huge supply of advanced battery pieces to craft up a bunch of energy amplifiers yet. So I forewent those and went straight for running Deuterium Surplus. This one is obtained by doing the Alhini system patrol after you complete the mission Spectres, which I believe is accessible from the mission journal now. I, of course, had to throw on the Temporal Negotiator from the recruit event, and then rounding out, I have just some large auxiliary batteries. So in keeping with a year one build, I wanted to base as much of this around isomags as I could. So I got myself a nice set of isomags. These are also, pretty easily gotten from the exchange. They're not too expensive, not as high up as, Phaser or Disruptor. And I found that when I was going in and crafting these, I got moderately lucky. I think I was able to get 3 off the bat and then just kept crafting them, running TFOs, getting the materials for them. I kept on the new console from this ship too. I kind of enjoyed using it the first time it came in handy. I was running an ISC while testing this thing, and as I joked earlier, flew straight through a warp core breach and exploded, and used the console to jump right back into the action and keep going, which I really
Okay,
liked.
that's pretty badass, honestly. Oh god, I'm getting clipped again, am I not? No, I think it's cool that you left the console on. I think it's a pretty good one.
I think a lot of times when I get a new Starship, I really enjoy keeping on whatever the console that came with it was. And just having some fun. And occasionally I like to sort of try to build a ship around some of these consoles. It introduces a lot of new challenges, and I get to discover some really fun stuff, like getting blown up by a cube and then jumping right back into the TFO. Moving on, I wanted to just get some consoles that I knew were a little bit easier to get in your first year that would at least help anti-proton damage. So I ended up grabbing 2 from the Phoenix store, the Voth Phase Decoy and the Crystalline Absorption Matrix. I was a really big fan of the Crystalline console here. I liked that 500 energy damage resistance rating, and I found that that helped in quite a few scenarios while I was testing that thing. Uh, One of the running jokes I have in my stream is I'm really good at making enemies angry, and it helps me stay alive when I do that. The Voth Phase Decoy I don't tend to use as much for its active ability, but occasionally if I'm in a situation where I know I'm about to get blown up, it's nice to, spawn in that Phase Decoy, lay low for a minute, let my health get back up, and then jump back in a worst case scenario.
Oh, that's also a good
Another
strategy if you're not that powered up yet, right? Gives you some time to heal.
Especially once you start to get around the Delta Quadrant missions, as I know that's a place where the difficulty tends to jump up a little bit. You start facing down the Vadwar, which start to use a lot more swarm tactics. You know, they'll hold you in place and then hit you with a barrage attack.
Yes, I've seen a lot of feedback recently about them. It made me more terrified than when I first fought them.
I know whenever I'm dealing with them, if I know I'm going to fight them, my two schools of thought are to either know that I can withstand a single barrage from one of their ships or be able to get myself loose so I'm not there when they hit. And trying to balance my ships to do at least one of those has been a lot of fun. I think one of the more impressive ones, I built out the Shangri-La to just tank a bunch of those shots just so I could build it out for Battle of Corvez. And it's really funny just sitting there, getting hit with these barrages and shooting torpedoes back and not losing any health. But jumping back over to my consoles, another Lobby addition I have here is the Vowel-Linked Sentry Coordination Matrix. This one is really nice, in no small part because I get that two-piece set. At least in the case of the Omni, it'll chain at additional time, and that refraction will deal a lot of extra damage, which is very, very nice. And then, of course, all of my anti-protons with that are getting that refraction. And then rounding out for my tactical consoles, I have the flagship tactical computer from what I have to say is one of my favorite ships in the game. Mainly because it's the Endeavor, but it's still a really, really great console and a trait that I'll get to a little bit later. Gives me a nice boost to my firing cycle haste and give me a nice little boost of speed when I need it. And like I said, because this one started out with the Ilios, I had to throw on custom power matrix, have it in my tac slot just for that little extra boost of weapon power, or engine power, I'm sorry. And then Lorca's custom fire controls from the Discovery reputation. And like Mara mentioned earlier, the Voth heavy fighters did get changed. And they are really nice, and I got a set of elite ones from my Fleet Starbase to throw them on this build. Moving on to my traits, I of course had to start with Super Weapon Ingenuity. I mean, it wouldn't be a Beam Overload build in my opinion without it. This was, I think, one of the first non-C-Store traits I got, and it has been one of my favorites ever since. We've got Critical Systems from the Temporal Recruit event, and I know that at least a few of you in chat will point out that I do not have improved critical systems yet. I have been very lazy and have not finished leveling that one, despite the fact that I went in, did my Klingon recruit and all of my other recruits, and still haven't finished this one.
This is just to show off the 1 year build, so you totally did that on purpose, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely, on purpose.
Exactly.
Scrub.
I've got on board dilithium recrystallizer. This is a nice one. I believe it's from the Infinity trait box now. Improved predictive algorithms. This is from putting spec points into the Intel skill tree. And then for my choice from the event campaign, I decided that one of the best things you could get would be the Disco D7. Not only is it a fantastic ship, that also unlocks some really nice weapons. The advanced phasers and the advanced disruptors are really cool and have some great sound effects. But it also gives you the Ruin of Our Enemies, which is one of my favorite traits. When you defeat a foe, you get 3% bonus all damage for 20 seconds. And that will stack up to 100 times.
That does not sound like a lot, but I see there's a strategy there.
Stacking it is oh so very fun, especially when you start getting into TFOs like the Breach, because destroying hard points is getting a kill. So by the time you hit the door, you can have a pretty good stack of Ruin up, and you just get to start having fun once you make it into the first door.
Nice. Yeah, I
I
think
ended up
as a new
T6.
player, it's sometimes hard to be like, oh, it says 3%. That does not seem like a lot. So I think it's good to point these things out to newer players.
Mhm. I ended up T6 2xing this ship just so that I could get these last 2 trait slots. I think in the first year, through any amount of gameplay and stuff that we do, we'll end up getting enough ship coupons to upgrade at least one ship, and this one was definitely fun enough that I did not hesitate to want to T62X this thing and see what it could do. So I threw on supercharged weapons, that trait I mentioned from the Endeavor, and kind of similarly, when firing a torpedo, you get a stack of supercharged, which will give you a 10% boost to your damage for 20 seconds and give you a nice little boost to your crit chance and crit severity. And then lastly, I ended up keeping on the trait from the Voth ship. This was partially because I feel like in your first year, you're gonna want to run the trait that comes from a ship every single time. And I kind of had fun messing around and seeing what this trait could do. And I ended up staying on just through my testing because I wanted to see how the trait was performing overall. Moving on to my stations, I went for honestly pretty similar to what I did with a lot of my early beam overload builds. Because I've got that miracle worker seating, I tended to default to mix armaments synergy 3 and narrow sensor bands 3. Things that give you nice little bonus damage to your directed energy weapons, either by activating other weapons like cannons or torpedoes. In this case, I'll just be jumping between my beams and torpedoes. And then with narrow sensor bands, giving you that bonus damage based on how far away you are from the target. I slot this because I hope that it will encourage me to pay attention more to where I'm flying relative to the people I'm fighting. It hasn't quite gotten me to that level yet, but I'm working on it. Got emergency power to weapons too, again for that bonus energy weapon damage, and then engineering team. This one is important for 2 reasons. The first one is having hull heals is always useful when you're starting out. When things do damage to you, having something to, jump your health up from 20 to say 30 or even 40% can be the difference between living through a TFO and exploding. But the other side of that, moving on to this intel seat here, is to counteract the effects of override subsystem safeties. This bridge officer ability is so much fun. It will give you a nice little boost to your energy weapon power, which for me is the most important thing. But at the end of that nice little boost, it'll knock one of your subsystems offline for a couple of seconds, which normally doesn't bother me too much. I think I can live without auxiliary power. I can live without shield power for at least a second, usually. But when my weapon power goes down, I'm going straight to that engineering team to cleanse that debuff so that I can go right back to shooting.
That makes you the better fighter. I can never go without shield power. I get hit too much.
I normally try to take the stance of hopefully nothing will be able to blow me up if I manage to blow it up first. And I'd say that that logic has worked 65% of the time.
Very
Solid
diplomatic solution.
65%. And then moving on, I've got attack pattern beta 1 for my debuff, and then the cornerstone of the build, beam overload 3. My favorite bridge officer ability in the game. Going on to my first science seat, I just threw on a couple of my standard things, tractor beam, because most of my ship focuses on hitting things right in front of me. So the more I can hold something right where I want it to be, the better I'll do. And then photonic officer, which is usually my go-to just for helping all of my cooldowns. And then for my last one, I went with something a little bit different from what I normally do. On that instant seat, I threw on hazard emitters for another heal. I went with jam targeting sensors just because I thought it would be a fun ability to try out in here. And then I went with photonic shockwave because I wanted that nice little debuff it gives. And I guess the only one I didn't mention was torpedo spread. Torpedo spread plus the disco dark matter torpedo is a great combination. And I think the only thing I haven't mentioned yet was going on to my duty officers. I tried to go with ones that were a little easier to get. I didn't go quite so deep into my Borg duty officers that I normally go with. I went with, of course, my con officer. I found a cheap blue quality energy weapons officer, and then went with a green crit severity buff on firing energy weapons, because I think I had found that listed on the exchange for about 30,000 energy credits, which I thought was a great deal. And then just threw on some other con officers, and then a warp core engineer. And does anyone have any questions before I take this thing into a quick patrol?
Let's see.
Oh, nope. Well constructed.
Alrighty.
Nothing from
Normally when
Mars.
I'm testing out new ships and new builds, I like to take it into Wanted on Argala. I usually do that because I have run it enough times that I can kind of predict where the enemy groups are going to be, so I can be a lot more consistent in my run, so I can compare it against other ships and see how it's performing.
My favorite art again. Great.
And here, normally, when I parse this, I tend to start after I destroyed these first two ships, because I just end up sitting for a moment, letting my cooldowns reset while I wait for the dialogue to finish.
I always just love the laser show every time these fights happens. This is prime entertainment for me.
You have entered an area controlled by the Benthan Guard. Our scans indicate your ship is armed and operational, and you have demonstrated your ability. You are now my deputy. Looks like our fight got them to notice us.
Now we're gonna fight some Kazon.
If their boss might come out
Let's
of hiding.
go! Blow them up before they blow us up. That's what I learned today.
Keep concentrating fire on individual
Also, everyone say hi to Flo and Jeremy in the chat. Ari's happy to have people on the team there.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
You will stand down and surrender to the Benthan Guard. Sensors are picking up small habitations.
I have so much fun with Beam Overload. I don't know why, it's such a satisfying firing mode. Watching those
Oh, it's super
overpowered
punchy.
beams slam into these Kazon carriers.
It is very impressive to watch. Like, if I had you as my enemy in a fight, I would be terrified.
We do what we want, where we want.
And yes, we're giving
And
a
right
coupon
there-
away, but also if you guys don't get one today, we will keep giving them away during ship-themed streams. So if it's ship build streams or ship announcement streams, we will keep giving away ship coupons. So you just keep joining and keep talking, and you might get one.
And one thing to note that happened right there, my auxiliary power went down because of OSS, and I ended up just throwing down my engineering team so I could cleanse that. Normally I wouldn't do that because my auxiliary power isn't as important on a build like this, but watching out for those icons there and then being able to react accordingly can help a lot. When I first started using override subsystem safeties, I didn't really understand what it did, and I was getting very confused as to why my weapons would just stop firing sometimes.
Thank you for your assistance, and welcome to this sector.
But now, I get to cleanse it whenever I need to.
There's been a lot of turbulent activity recently. There have been
Yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit to understand all the different parts of a ship build and how they might interact with each other.
Hmm. And so I had mentioned that one thing I tend to do a lot is compare this against other ships. Because Argala is a very consistent kind of patrol, I'm able to much more easily sort of gauge it against other things that I do. On my upper echelon of ships, I tend to do upwards of 400k, and then getting between 200 and 300 is normally where I try to aim for stuff. In this run, I did 189k, and this probably wasn't one of my best patrol runs, but just after a year throwing on stuff that you would get from the event campaign and things that you could get by playing the game, it was a lot of fun. So I enjoy it. I get to do my beam overload, and I was able to build this out exclusively with things I could buy easily from the exchange or get with the event campaign from the lobby, the lockbox slash promo ship you can get from that, and then some of the C-store traits. And that's the build.
Well done.
Right.
I think both of those are great. I really appreciate the work you guys put into on my request on like focusing a little more on beginner players, because obviously we want to keep motivating players that just started to keep going. I know it's a little tough sometimes to find your bearings and figure out how to put a ship build together that actually gets you somewhere. And even though Jeremy just said 100k is totally fine for most content, I really appreciated all the damage and the laser shows you guys did.
I entirely agree with that number, by the way. 100 to 150,000 DPS in an elite is you are contributing. That is the bar. If you can reach there, you are doing great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's a reminder that we should give out, because it's really great to like try to chase the highest DPS ever rate, but you don't have to instantly make a 400k damage in the first few months you're playing, right? You can still get through the game without that.
Yeah, absolutely not. Like this is a thing to do to have fun in a way. But like as long as you are hitting that 100 to 150k range and you're playing elites, you are contributing and you can feel good about yourself.
If you don't
Agreed.
fly into things, I'm
Mhm.
gonna do one stream where I'm just gonna be taught to fly at this point, because I feel like I also need to contribute more. Alright, we're gonna switch back to Mara for the next ship, unless there's any last questions, but I don't think I saw any. Alright, give me 1 second so you guys don't have the cloaked screen again. Right. You ready, Mara?
Yeah, I'm all set. So the
1 second.
antithesis of the previous build. All right, waiting.
No, we're done. I'm there.
Okay, I do want to answer a question I saw. Someone brought up the red matter and proto matter devices as something to use. I don't actually like them. They have really long cooldowns when you can just be using batteries that do what you want them to. I don't recommend them. I don't recommend spending resources or time on them. They are actually not that good. But anyways, moving on. This is the antithesis of the previous build. This is an all-in, high-end, no expenses held crate style build. If you've been in my orbit over the last few months, you might have heard of the crate concept. It is based around the Woven console, unconventional systems, and using high-powered universal consoles that do a lot of damage output or a lot of buffing. And the idea is to just be rotating everything consistently and murdering everything dead. The feature I specifically wanted to highlight with this build is a modification to the Entwined Tactical Matrices FAW extension technique. So many of you will know that you use Entwined Tactical Matrices to cycle torpedo spread and fire at will to keep fire at will up for a high amount of uptime. If you are manually cycling it and perfectly timing it, you can get 100%. I'm lazy, so I don't do that. I rotate them on my spam bar and get like 80% uptime. And honestly, I recommend doing that for most people because it's just so much easier on your brain. But that does leave you with some downtime where you have unbuffed beam shots. Now, what if I told you there's a way to enhance those shots during that downtime gap? What if I told you it's ancient? What if I told you it's the crafted over mod? So again, we're talking procs. Now, as I mentioned before, procs have a relatively low chance of happening when you don't have haste. But I have haste. I have a lot of haste. And so during Fire at Will, these procs stack up. The overproc stacks and lasts 6 seconds individually. They do fall off, they don't refresh, they're just independently timered. I believe we're on a black screen again.
No. My apologies. I was trying to do the giveaway.
Are we back? Yes.
Okay, so the overproc grants the next available weapon to cycle an old style overload shot. Now, during that last 6 seconds of a FA cycle, any of those procs you harvest are going to be stacked up and ready to go. We've got a black screen again.
It's fixed.
I'm so
Okay,
sorry,
cool.
guys.
It's okay. We're doing great. So, on a good run, this is heavily RNG dependent. So I've seen it do really poorly, but I've seen it do really well. Where on like a run where my guns have done, a couple 100K, the overproc has done like 20, like half of the downtime output. So you're making up for that gap by firing 1, 2, 3. I've had 4 or 5 overload shots just unload the moment my FA goes off. So this is actually like, and most mods contribute 3-ish, 4-ish, 5-ish% DPS. I've had the overmod contribute 8, 10% on great runs. So this is a really, really great option if you don't have something like Breen Free Fire and need to use overload on entwined tactical matrices or redirecting arrays. The rest of the build is very, very complicated. I don't think I have a ton of time to go into the complexities of a crate build because it is a vastly complicated machine. But I'll talk about some highlights. We have the Woven console that we all love that regenerates your universal consoles. We have Fleet Power Network Array, which uses aux power to juice your guns with haste. A often overlooked console, Particle Conversion Matrix, caps out your shield res. Bort, it's crate as in the snake, Krait.
Oh. See, I also didn't understand that.
Yeah, it's a reference to the very old build archetype, the Drake or the Dragon. It's the same kind of self-rolling machine. When I named this, when I debuted this a few months ago, that was the idea. Anyways, Particle Conversion Matrix caps out your shield res, and also grants you stacking energy and exotic damage boosts up to 10 times, giving you 100% of what's called category 1 damage. So this is a really strong console. It comes off the Guardian, and it's very, very overlooked. It's very nice. There's high damage consoles like Broadside Combat Module, Micro Quantum Phalanx Array, Dilithium Transporter, Agony Redistributor. I'm using the Kittimer Shield for its retaliation damage. Since I'm a high DPS player, I always have threat. And so since I'm getting shot, I might as well hurt everyone who's shooting me. Right? Makes sense? So,
Does to me.
yeah. Let's just take a quick scrub through the traits. This is everything you're going to see on a high-end build. I have broadside beam support, which is another thing off the same ship that has broadside combat module. The same spread of high-end stuff, universal designs, ship of the line, Terran goodbye, ruin of our enemies, which again, as Endeavor pointed out, is an amazing trait. It also has a feature where every 5th defeat, it gives you bridge officer cooldown. So this is actually integral to my cooldown plan. I run Boimler, I run this, I run chronocapacitor array, and I run custom power matrix, and all of those things together give me enough cooldown that I really don't have to worry about it. So yeah, there's really not much else complicated to the build. You'll be able to read a detailed write-up. And I believe Spencer is working on a long-form video that discusses the crate machine in detail. So when that comes out, you can get a lot more detail in this quick conversation. Before I take this thing shooting, does anyone have any questions for what they've seen?
Doesn't seem like it.
I'm not seeing I'm seeing any questions coming in.
Now that I know it's about the snake, I'm happy.
Yay. All right. So let's go. Just to demonstrate the differences here, I'm gonna go back into ISE. I am not the best fire at will pilot. I'm a cannon skirly. I have my positioning dialed in my head for that. So like, I'll do like 1,000,000 to 1,000,004 here, I think. Someone who's better at fall than me can do much, much better with this. So let's go.
I'm gonna queue up too.
To answer Bordicus's question, I actually meant to talk about that and I forgot. Thank you for bringing it up. So the ship came with a console that was focused around cooldown. Spirit of Sacrifice. Let me just bring it up real quick. So Spirit of Sacrifice, once every 2 minutes, gives you a cooldown slap when you activate it for sacrificing your shields. The reason why I'm not using it here, and I would love to, is that you cannot make it consistent. A single cooldown slap that occurs every 30 seconds, which is about as fast as you can get this thing rolling, is not going to complete your cooldown cycles, which for this build, the majority of things need to be going off every 10 to 15 seconds. So this is an incomplete solution, taking up an entire console slot, which is a high opportunity cost, where I can just slot the things I've already slotted with cooldown that are doing other things that are really strong, and not worry about having every other cooldown cycle just completely uncovered. On top of that, being a single instance cooldown slap, if something's not off cooldown or something is going to go on cooldown immediately or is about to be cooldown, that single instance could be entirely wasted. If this console were a cooldown over time, like if it was a 20-second duration cooldown period of enhanced cooldown, I'd love it because I could roll it every 30 seconds. It's a ability that's up. It's giving me cooldowns. I'd love that. I just also need the passive, which isn't good enough to be better as well to justify its place as a console slot. So yeah, if this console was slightly different, cooldown over time with a 20 to 30 second duration, and the passive was like always on, I would consider this a must slot. But as it is right now, it's kind of unusable.
Well, that's good feedback for us and for Jeremy, who's looking in the chats and very happy to pass it
Yeah.
on to our other developers.
Yeah. I mean, combined with the exceptional cost of it, it just doesn't make any sense.
No, that's understandable. We are or have already listened and seen a lot of feedback, so we're already working on things. I made a statement about that a couple days ago. Basically, there's some things we're working on, but we want to make sure that it gets tested properly. And as some of you might have noticed, we are preparing for new content, so it might take a bit, but we're definitely still listening.
I do want to say art knocked it out of the park here. Art really went hard.
It's beautiful, right?
Oh,
Like when we do
absolutely.
these ship streams, putting on the vanity shields is not just the players, but also my favorite part, because it really shows off the different areas where art went really hard on making sure it looks great, because then you can see all the color differences. But even when it's original, it just looks so nice.
All right. So, with that having been done, I'm going to take this into ISC. And hopefully I won't die because that happens sometimes. I am a very reckless pilot. All right, here we go. Actually, I'm going to just grab prototype real quick.
I think I ended up in the same one as you.
Let's see what happens.
Also, if you have agony, if you want to use it on the left, I'll hit it on the right.
I typically race cube and then gate.
Oh, gotcha. Then I'll use it on the left.
Okay. I mean, unless you want to do a split.
Oh, that's okay.
The chat is protesting. Oh, look, it's fireworks. Isn't that pretty?
I'm so prepared to explode here and make a total ass of myself.
Well, then it's a learning experience for us all. It's just part of the STO experience.
Oh, I forgot to mention, since I don't think we're in the same one because mine is still loading.
I just loaded in.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I'm expecting one of two things to happen. I might die, and that would be very sad, or I'll get screwed by RNG and the overproc will do like nothing, because that does happen sometimes.
We're showing off the build by blowing up the ship. Okay, that is really cool.
Had some misfires here.
See, that makes me new player. I'm just like, wow, so much is happening.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk very much because I am focused. Yeah, I'm already like really dipping.
Ah, yeah, somebody said they really love silly fun builds and it's not always about top DPS shirts. And I agree. One of the reasons I wanted to make these ship streams is that every player plays STO differently, especially when they reach late game. And I think sometimes you just have to go a little silly or just do something that looks pretty in a fight or do something for role-playing purposes because you think your captain would have that kind of ship. And that's also why I want to do these streams with you guys,
to just show off all the different ways you can make a ship build.
All right.
I think that went not too
1067.
badly.
Not the worst. Yeah, not the worst. Not my best, not the worst. Didn't die. Let's take a look real quick at the overproc. I get a feeling like it didn't go off, which happens sometimes. Let's see, overload, overload, overload. Okay, actually, we did really good here. This was, I got what I wanted. We've got 24, 30, 33, about 34K out of the overproc. Which is really, really solid. The number was 1.067. As I said, I'm not a fall pilot. Someone better than me could have done much, much better. But yeah, no, the overproc did exactly what I wanted it to. That's a really, really good contribution.
And we didn't explode. I think that's a win.
And we didn't explode. We didn't explode. So yeah, that's my Trafalgar. Everyone who runs ETM should look into overguns if they have haste. It's a really good little trick.
Alright.
Or if you want to hear nuts, I just put up a 2.5 mil the other day solo in ISE. You actually do better with less players.
That is so wild to
There's
me.
there's no one taking up. There's no one stealing hull from you to kill. Like when other players do damage, I'm doing less.
Like, all this is teaching me is that I'm probably just vibing too much because I'm not sure any of my builds are coordinated like this. It's just like, oh, this sounds nice. I'm learning a lot
Yeah.
today. Alright, while we watch the fireworks, any last questions or any comments from Endeavor?
No, that was amazing.
Nice. Yes, I do agree.
I completely concur with Bordicus here. Bordicus, I want to read out Bordicus's. I can't just scroll up and I can't look at it on my phone. Bort basically just said he wants to make sure that everyone understands that these numbers are not necessary to be like good at STO, and I entirely agree. I am insane. I am literally a top 10 player. Don't feel bad because you're not doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, this is
Like-
also just meant to be fun and some inspiration, guys. As we said earlier, 100K is more than fine. You don't need to reach millions, although I still think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's so fun.
Yes. This is also partly just sometimes you just want to see how you can push things and what you can do with different things. But especially for any beginners players here, you're probably doing fine with whatever you have going. We're just trying to show you what else is possible.
One of the funniest little thoughts I have for myself is that canonically I'm one of the most terrifying beings in space. I enjoy that.
I'm just the crystal entity that you never see.
Yeah.
Alright. I'm gonna take a moment to do the winners for our giveaway before we switch to our last build. Just so I don't forget and you guys can already get excited over your coupons and think about what you might get with it. And as always, please make sure you have your messages open so I can message you later to ask you. Otherwise, if you see that you're a winner and you want to be proactive, you can already message my Counselor Suna account with a character name. I don't just need your account, I actually need the character you want the coupon to be sent to. Otherwise, I will reach out to you probably tomorrow because it is getting late for little Sunas. Alright. One more. And that is the winners for today. Just remember, next time we do a ship stream, you will have the chance to win again. And if it's not a ship stream, you might have the chance to win something else instead. Alright. I am switching to you, Endeavor.
All right.
One moment. Closing the giveaway window so it doesn't kill us again. And off we go.
So, much like Mara's ship, for the Trafalgar, I wanted to tackle a no expenses spared build on this thing. This is an absolutely amazing looking ship, so I wanted to do it justice and make it capable of kicking all the butt in this game. I wanted to keep it a little bit space Barbie. But before I get into that, I'm going to talk a little bit about what my vision was for this ship. I based a lot of it off of the crate build idea that Mara has running all of the universal consoles and stuff, and decided to change some stuff around. And I decided to focus more on doing as much debuffing as I could outside of just damaging things with my weapons. And I came up with the nickname of the Mixed Intensity Debuffing Attacker, also known as the Mida build. So, this ended up working out really well because I decided very early on that I wanted to go with pulse phasers. These fit the era really well and have the added benefit of having that debuff to all damage resistance rating. And, I mean, they just look absolutely incredible. I ended up going with the Maelstrom Quantum Torpedo Launcher on here. One of the things I really like about the Breen Free Fire trait is that I can run a Fire at Will build with the Maelstrom Torpedo and not feel like I'm losing out on anything. With Entwined, it's a lot harder to do that because the torpedo has a 30-second cooldown. So having this is a whole lot more fun. Pretty similar setup as far as the deflector and the engines to the other ship. It's really hard for me to get away from this colony deflector and the competitive engines. I love going fast. But for my warp and shields, I ended up changing it up a little bit. I am running the Tholian Nucleating Warp Core. This is an event reward from a few years ago, and this has been one of my most favorite pieces of equipment in the game. When you kill an enemy with this warp core equipped, it'll drop a little Tholian crystal, which either works effectively like a mine that does radiation damage, or gives me a nice little boost to my shields if I fly through it, which is nice. And similar to Mara, I'm running the Kittimer Alliance Regenerative Shield Array. It's very satisfying to me personally when an enemy does manage to get my shields down, and my response to that is to hit them with a concentrated beam of anti-protons. Going into my aft weapons, I've got an omnidirectional pulse phaser beam array. Because again, I wanted to keep it as space Barbie as possible, because I did deviate a little bit from that for the second weapon. I went with that POV and proton beam array. This Omni is so much fun. I'm pretty sure Mara will agree as well, but I was kind of hesitant to use this on things when it originally came out, but the more I used it and the more I learned how resonance charges actually work, it became something I used on more and more ships. The more things you hit, the more resonance charges you build up, the more damage you'll be able to do with them. And then rounding out, I've got another pulse phaser turret here. Most of the consoles are going to be pretty similar to what Mara was running. I've got the adaptive emergency systems and the agony redistributor. For the engineering consoles, I ended up putting the custom power matrix in here only because I kind of wanted an extra boost to my auxiliary power. I'm running Fleet Power Network Array off of the Awani, which, feeds off of how much power you have into your aux subsystem. But I found that when I was doing random TFOs, I would get caught in times where I really, really, really wanted to use the console for something, but my battery was on cooldown because I had activated an energy amplifier because I really, really wanted to use an energy amplifier to blow something up. So I'm not getting the most out of Fleet Power Network Array when I'm doing that, but it's better than having it at whatever the minimum would be besides that. I think I have it at 15. Um, have the shield frequency absorber. This is the shield from the Yacht Dreadnought. This thing is really fun. It's basically I click this button, the enemy shields go down. I think the only exception to that are some of the really, really, really big targets. Like I think the tactical cubes and the board cubes in ISC, it'll just do a ton of shield damage instead. But it's really nice because for any ship whose shields I take down, it means I don't have to worry about my shield pen in that case. I've got the console from the Achilles. This is a really fun console, and I found that the best way to use it and to cut down on the travel time is to use it exactly how it was used originally, which is fly directly underneath the ship, and when you're right below it, fire off this console and watch those torpedoes go to work. Similarly to Mara as well, I've got the particle conversion matrix off of the Guardian. I think this is on here because I was talking to you about consoles to use on my Lexington a few weeks ago, and you opened my eyes to this console, right?
Yeah, it's so good. It's so nice.
It is a lot of fun. This is a new arrival to my builds for sure. I already talked about Fleet Power Network Array, and then I have the Shield Absorbative Frequency Generator. This is off the Tier 3 Valdor, and this is a very big change for me because this is a console that does two things that I never do. The first one is focuses on trying to keep me alive, and the second one is does anything relating to shields. I thought I wouldn't like it at first, but honestly, it's come to be pretty useful because, like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I have a bad habit of flying through warp core breaches. Having shields makes those slightly more survivable. Rounding out my tactical consoles, I have DPRM off of the original Atlas class. This is one of my favorite consoles in the game. You click it, not only does it give you a whole lot of survivability, it also gives you bonus damage. So there's a lot to love there. I've got Voven. I have been practicing using it in useful capacities. Since this thing focuses a lot on its dual beam banks, being able to face an enemy is really important. And the cooldown reduction on this thing is super duper nice, but it's also great because it puts me in the exact firing arc I would want to be in for using my dual beam banks. I've got the lithium transporter off of the friendship class, which is a very fun console. Activating it not only gives you a nice boost to your firing cycle haste, but also gives it to people around you. And it works a lot like a sort of toned down chemosite laced weaponry, which in my eyes is freeing up a potential slot in your bridge officer setup and then getting even more benefits out of it. I threw on sequential warhead launcher. These torpedoes look incredible and they do oh so very much damage as long as you can figure out exactly when and how to use it. Oh, and I'm sorry, somebody just corrected me. It's from the Credence, not the Friendship. I was getting my 32nd century Starfleet ships mixed up there. Thank you. And then I have the Broadside Combat Module. The Kerala is one of my favorite ships in the game at the moment, and this console is so much fun. Not only does it fit the aesthetic I was going for with all of my weapons, but when I'm in the middle of a target-rich environment, it's nice being able to have some coverage on my sides. And I like trying to position myself, right in between sets of ships so I can use those while I'm focusing something in front of me. And it's a lot of fun. Moving on to my traits, I threw on Ship of the Line here from the Legendary Avenger. This goes hand in hand with the fact that I'm running 2 emergency power abilities on my bridge officer slots. I've got Weapons 1 and then Engines 2. I have the trait from the Yacht Dreadnought. This is definitely, I think, the sort of backbone of this build, having Fire at Will up as much as it is has been a lot of fun. And I still keep a lot of my entwined tactical matrices builds, like the one I have on the Kerala, that I think is also using the overload beams that Mara was talking about. But this has been a really fun one to mess around with on this ship and on my Lexington, simply because it means I can use my Maelstroms with it as well. I threw on Inertial Supremacy. This is from the Rex, the anniversary ship last year. And this one is just going to give me a nice big debuff whenever I activate my AoE firing modes, like Fire at Will and Torpedo Spread. I've got, of course, one of my favorite traits in the game, the Ruin of Our Enemies, off of the Discovery D7. I have Eclectic Collector of Armaments. I believe this one comes off of the Shrike, right, Mara?
Correct.
Cool. Awesome. This one comes off of the Shrike. And this one I just like because I really like the phaser lance on this thing, and the more I can use it, the better. That was my main motivation for it. I've got Temporal Tunneling, so every time I activate any exotic ability, since I don't have any temp ops on this thing, it'll give me a nice little boost to my haste. And then lastly, Broadside Beam support off of the Kerala. Whenever I'm under Fire at Will, I have weapons on my left and right sides firing off. So I already talked a bit about the stations. Sort of in keeping with that idea of debuffing things as much as possible, I threw on Suppression Barrage 3 here, and then in my science seat, I have Destabilizing Resonance Beam, Structural Analysis, Photonic Shockwave, all there to debuff. And just because I had this extra seat, I had been going back and forth on this a lot. I ended up throwing on Chemosite-laced Weaponry 1, though there has been a couple of times where I threw on Tractor Beam Catapult 1 just because I think that ability is so fun. There is a great deal of fun in throwing asteroids at your enemy.
Oh yeah. Actually, I might try to use that at some point. That I cannot wait to see that in action.
It was
I-
truly funny when it had no min CD.
Oh yeah. That was a time. I forget which TFO I was doing, but I had a team of people in my stream, and at one point there were 30 or 40 asteroids just sort of floating through space because we kept throwing them, and they would stay there for a couple of seconds if the target didn't die. It was a fun time.
And they
Tractor Beam
tried
Catapult
something
was
new.
fun.
Well, now I'm sad
I
I
also-
Out on that one.
I also built out my Shangri-La to see just how much I could get out of a Tractor Beam Catapult 1. And I forget what the exact number was, but I went into a Battle of Corfez and one-shot one of the Vaadwaur heavier artillery vessels with an asteroid. So that was very fun.
Yeah, I had a jellyfish that just had 3 copies of it spamming. It was
I love,
it was funny.
I love lore-accurate asteroid throw.
The lore accurate is important.
Oh, there
Yeah.
are a lot of pets around me.
Yeah,
I had not looked at my screen.
I think you have been found.
For my duty officers, just gonna go over these real quick. I went with all of my fancier, I will say, duty officers. I've got my purple quality, crit severity on and crit chance on firing energy weapons. My con officer that'll give me a recharge reduction to evasive maneuvers whenever I use my emergency power to weapons, and then 3 Borg duty officers that proc off of command abilities. So 18 of 47 will either give me team-wide maximum hull when I activate an engineering power, and then command has a 30% chance of giving me armor pen. And then I have 23 of 47, which for tack abilities will give a boost to my maximum hull for 30 seconds. And then when I activate a command ability like my Suppression Barrage 3, has a 30% chance of giving me a nice little boost to my critical chance. And I think that basically covers everything in the build. Does anybody have any questions before I hop back into a patrol and bully some Kazon again.
Are you okay? Seeing the screen.
I feel I'm feeling a little bit smothered at the moment for sure. Let's see what I can make out here. I see some Valkyries, I see Alliance fighters, I see some Type 7s, some TAC flyers. I think I saw some Kodais, but I'm not really sure.
I think that's amazing.
And
That's
the
one of my
Mobileye.
favorite features of Star Trek Online, to be fair. That and tribbles, of course.
Carriers are my favorite ship type in the game, especially flight deck carriers. The Donnie was, I think, my first promo ship, and it's been one of my favorites for a long time.
Yeah, true
Alrighty.
carriers are one of my favorite niche builds. I spend so much time working on carrier pet damage builds.
Okay, I think somebody mentioned it a few times, but a couple players were like, "Oh, I didn't know that duty officers and generally officers could change a ship build and could affect fighting so much." Is that something like you recommend people to invest in early, or is that more something for later?
I'm of the opinion that it's something to be invested in later. I think that they make a difference in builds, but I also think that they're kind of the last step on understanding everything else to do in the game and then building out a ship proper. Because, I mean, getting all of these would put you back a pretty fair amount of energy credits. The critical severity and crit chance buffs, for example, are close to 1 billion, if not a little bit higher, in energy credits on the exchange because they come exclusively out of one type of duty officer box from the Zen store, and they only have a chance of dropping there at purple quality. I kind of write them up to something similar to Endeavors in they're something that you should really focus on once you're getting into that, okay, I have the actual build right where I want it to be. Now I'm starting to fine tune each of the like individual screws on my starship.
Nice. Would you agree, Mara, or do you have a different opinion?
Yeah, by and large, yeah, there are definitely duty officers that you should be grabbing early in your development, but it's really knowing which ones those are. Like,
Mhm.
like there's the emergency con hologram that you can get out of the Phoenix store, which is pretty standard kit on nearly every build. Um, there's the cheap crit doffs, but like those are still tuning. Like the only doff that I would say, hey, go get immediately is the emergency con hologram because it's so accessible and it's so good. Otherwise, don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Nice. So not a priority if you're starting out with a small budget.
Yeah.
Nice. Then let's see it in action. Also, hi to my predecessor. I see that Admiral Kale
Joined us.
Hey, Kale. All right, let's bully some Kazon.
Yeah.
Let's get away from all the pets.
Oh, and I also saw some Valor fighters there too. I love the look of these phasers so much.
That's a lot of crit.
You have entered an area controlled by the Bentham Guard. Our scans indicate your ship is armed and operational. You are now... Looks like our fight got them to notice us. Let's go over and ask if their boss might come out of hiding.
Alrighty.
Keep concentrating fire on individual ships. Separate them and whittle down their numbers. We will not go quietly.
I will say this is a ship I use very much to just melt through enemies. Because if you compare this to the run I did in the Voth ship, these things are lasting about a fraction of the time.
Yeah, it is very terrifying. That's an incredible speed in which you go through them. Ooh, that's a very cool visual.
The Voven console.
Yes. I'm always like, if the effect looks really pretty, then I'm more likely to use it sometimes. I just really love how those things look in the game.
And right there, I use it just so I could be in a slightly better firing position to take out all of those ships at once. And the Kazon are gone.
God, I never want to meet any of you in PvP, by the way. Like, never.
I occasionally will PvP some of my friends to test out ships just to see what they would do. We have some incredibly fun fights using PvE builds against each other. I think the highlight was I tried to use debris screen against somebody, and they used a console that reflects physical and kinetic damage back at the attacker. It was very fun when I tried to ram somebody and then I ended up exploding. But for context, in that run, I did 407.6k DPS, which is roughly double what the Voth Stronghold build did. And like I said, this one is built a lot more to min-max and see what I could do with this thing. And it is very fun to take into things like Battle of Corfez just to see how it'll hold up. And I think last night we did the opening stage against the big Vaduar fleet, and we were able to clear it pretty easily. And it was a lot of fun. But that is the build. And I am being swarmed again.
We have to choose a different place every time I think we do this.
Such is the nature of the beast.
Listen, I can tell my team, you know how you get players to play more? If you do these, because then they will lock into the game just to troll you. It's my new secret strategy now. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I'm game.
Alright, just a reminder to everyone beginning, you do not have to do a lot of damage at first, and you don't have to have fancy builds. But I always feel like it's nice to know what you want to aim for, to see what the options are. I hope maybe some of you learn something new about how to build a ship build. Great English from my end. And just a little bit more about how the game works, or just that Star Trek still looks really pretty, even though it's a 15-year-old game. And if there's any last questions, we'd love to answer them. While we watch you get devoured. Honestly, that's kind of terrifying at this point.
Mark Ninehawk, I did demonstrate an isomax setup with no uncon, no Voven at the beginning of the stream. You can watch the VOZ to go see it.
Yes, and remember, all of these builds get posted on Discord and on STO builds.
And I'll also
Mhm.
talk to
Endeavor and Mara after this to see if we can maybe get it up on our website,
or somewhere else, at least link it.
so you'll see it for sure after this. And as Mara already said,
After this is over, you can always watch the stream.
share it with your friends. Please go follow our wonderful creators. We'll definitely post their socials again on our social media. And yes, guys, I think
That is it. Any last any last words?
Can I plug something real quick?
yes.
So I am currently working on a huge project. I expect it to be out within the next 1 to 2 months. If you all have ever wanted an hour and a half video explaining literally everything about ground combat, it's coming.
Oh, I definitely want that. All right, guys. Also, please check out Endeavor's new YouTube video. It's a really great trailer for the Star Trek Online multiverse, and I am very excited. The team has also really loved it. Besides that, please keep an eye out tomorrow. We're gonna post something that will give you some hints towards what's coming in the next few weeks. There's also
Ooh.
going to be a stream next Tuesday with some of our developers that you have not seen yet. And we'll show you a little bit of what's coming with the new content, some new items that will come in game. No spoilers for the actual content, of course, but we'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek, get you a little bit excited for our release. And we'll definitely do these kind of streams again, with maybe different content creators next time. Maybe someone will teach me how to fly and build my Mars pilot. Mara has already offered, for example. So, thank you very much, guys, for being here in the stream. Thank you to Mara and Endeavor for joining us. And I wish you all a wonderful evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was the stream's captains. Hopefully everyone is doing well. That was a great stream. I will just say 100% of that was a great stream by Mara, by Endeavor Game On, by Counselor Senna. Really, really cool seeing them going through the builds there, the assignment that was given to them, and really, I think, very helpful to a lot of players. And over the years, I only learn from people who are willing to teach, and I'm really glad that Deca's taken this step to actually share these types of builds, or at least some of the builds that you can do in Star Trek Online. Personally, Caps, you already know how we do it here on the bridge. We just have fun, especially nowadays in this point of our store career. We just kind of want to have fun, and it'll be very apparent as a drop of this video. We have a string of builds coming up here that we've been having fun lately. If you want to go see them, they're on the live tab there that we've been having them done on YouTube. So, but this is going to be the vid here. Thought we would again keep log of the stream that Deca did, and we'll keep doing these as much as we can. So do us a favor, hit the like button, comment below, let us know what you thought of the builds, or subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll leave it on this note.
Live long and prosper.